What's up, fam? We back. Think big. Another episode. It's episode 10. We officially in double digits. Happy New Year, everybody. We're back with part two of how to effectively communicate with the different personality types. I'm super excited for today. Last time we did this, we went over the driver or the red personality type, right? And guys that like to right in your face, But now we're going a complete opposite, right? We're we're going to complete opposite, right? We're talking about how to communicate with the people who want to take a slower approach, want to run their numbers, cross the T's, dot the I's, move a lot slower than the red counterpart. So I'm super excited for today, fellas. Happy New Year. What we got today, Alejandro? What's up, brother?
What is up? Happy New Year to everyone. It's been a very interesting start so far. I'm sure all of us have a very interesting start this year. I'm super excited. I learned a lot in 2022. I feel like I learned like 5 years worth of stuff in 1 year, bro. Like it's about to get
Facts.
crazy in 2023. And yeah,
Facts.
we're gonna bless you guys with some personality types. This is what we do all day: is close seller, persuade, being sneaky, but not really being sneaky, just sneaky enough to close a deal. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're gonna do today. Marlon, what is up, man? I love the view, dog.
Bro, you already know. We're just out here chilling inside of Starbucks because this is what you got to do sometimes. Like it's funny. I was making a episode, like a video on YouTube earlier today, and it was talking about getting things done no matter what, no excuses. And this is what we do. We adapt, right? Like I think we got Sam traveling around the world. Daryl's in the middle of. I don't even know where Daryl's at right now. And Alejandro, you have every reason to be like in your business, not doing this right now, but you showed up. So I'm pretty hyped about today's episode because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite personality types. I don't know how much I'm going to get to talk because I got the music playing overhead. So hopefully it's not too distracting. Hopefully YouTube doesn't flag this video and pull it down because of the background music. But I'm excited because we're going to be talking about the analytical personality types, which are low-key my favorite personality types. Like they are actually, in my opinion, like some people like the drivers the most. I love the analyticals the most. And we'll get into that a little later today. But yo, what's going on? Oh, that's the blender, guys. I gotta go.
Tell him to make me a cortado, man.
Got you, bro.
A venti one.
All right, guys. So I may also cut out. I'm in New York. I'm in a hotel lounge right now, and this lighting is disgusting. And if I get choppy, it's because I'm on hotel Wi-Fi. Hotel Wi-Fi. So if I get choppy, totally sorry. I'm actually really glad that Marlon said that he loves the analytical types, and there's a few reasons why. I was closing someone, not for real estate, but for something else, and this person's an analytical type, and I made this discovery today. The analytical types ask the best questions. See, the red types, they will challenge your ability to handle strong personality and a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. Analytical types, I made this discovery today. I didn't realize it. I always knew it, but you never really kind of think about it until it like hits you in the face. Analytical types will actually, I feel now, challenge your mastery of a subject. How well do you know your service? How well do you know your product? How well do you know your game? Because if you don't, if you're wavering, and these analytical types, man, they will put the puzzle pieces together and expose you. And I've actually realized I have a newfound appreciation for them is because when you conquer an analytical type, I feel like when you conquer an analytical type, you feel like you've crushed every objection. You have mastery of the subject matter, right? And that it's shown that you are in authority. It is actually, to me now, realizing it is an accomplishment, not an emotion, but an accomplishment in mastery of subject matter. And that's a pretty dope thing. It's a pretty amazing thing. But I mean, okay, so Daryl, how kind of give us a take, man. What does an analytical kind of seller look like? What is that personality usually going to feel like on the phone?
Excuse me, bro. I'm bad. So an analytical seller, these guys are almost they're the numbers people, right? I was almost gonna call them nerds, but yeah, let's just call them that. They're the nerds. They're the ones who like the numbers. They're gonna crunch the numbers. They're gonna take extra time and really, like I said earlier, right, cross their T's, dot their I's, and make sure that they're making the right decision. They don't make any fast decisions, so they're going to make sure everything, and just like you were saying, every question that they're asking you, these are calculated questions that they've been thinking about since the beginning. Like everything is calculated with them. So you have to move a lot slower with analytical sellers and be able to almost overcome their objections before they even come out.
So let me ask you this question, Daryl, because I think sometimes people get worried and nervous when these sellers start asking a ton of questions, like, "Oh man, they must not trust me. They must not think I'm good. Or they're asking me so many questions." What does it mean when an analytical asks a lot of questions? What's it gauge about this?
Yeah, they truly want to know, and they're actually interested. You would be worried if they're not asking questions. Like if an analytical person is not asking me questions, then I'm gonna be like, does this guy really want to sell? So they're asking a lot of questions to answer your question.
It's yeah, I want to make this this highlight because we talked about this during the red seller, and it's also extremely applicable when it comes down to the analytical seller. It's when analytical seller is giving you a lot of questions, right? These are typically, we'd consider these people engineers, right? These are the engineer profile, right? The engineers, and what does that mean? It typically means that these are the people who their gears spin and they want to see how things connect. And if in their mind, there's a disconnect, there's something missing, that will freaking eat away at them. And no matter what you do or say, if you have not addressed that, they will not be with you here. Right? If you're building a story, if you're building a sales funnel, your sales call, all of us are like really high level salesmen. Our sales calls, right, whether it's with sellers or a digital product or something, they typically follow a certain flow. And we want to achieve a certain end result by following this process. Sales calls are usually it's almost like a recipe. As long as we hit the right notes at the right time, we'll typically end with the right result. And the problem with these analytical sellers is if you are, conveying the story belt, right? You're putting the puzzle pieces together, but you miss this puzzle piece right here and you keep going, they're still here. Doesn't matter how well you've crushed this, and this. If you're here, they're still here. Guess what? This entire thing was useless, completely useless. So it is very critical for you to make sure that you're with them. And another thing that we need to understand is that an analytical seller will bombard you with questions. They will bombard you with objections. Just like with the red seller, do not take it personally. It is not because yes, is there an element that they may not trust you? Sure. But inherently, that is not because they don't trust you. It is because it is their default way of processing information and communicating, right? So never take any of this personally. They will bombard you with questions. They will, anytime you say something, they're going to say, well, what if this happens? And it almost feels like they're undercutting the authority. They're undercutting the trust that you're trying to build, the rapport that you're trying to build. And just know that is not because they don't trust you, unless you've done something to, inhibit that trust or rapport. It's just this person's way of communicating. And that is completely okay. So it is not always about, just like with the red seller, right? The red seller, they may scream at you. They may talk very intensely. It is not because they hate you. It's not because they're mean. It's not because they're this, that, or the other. For whatever reason, they're just geared that way. Society, their environment, their family, their upbringing has taught them to speak in a certain format, right? It is the same thing with analyticals. So I think one thing that's really critical is let's do this, because I want to, kind of paint a really solid photo for the folks. Alejandro, when you are on the phone, right, how can you early determine if you're dealing with an analytical type? How can you label that person as soon as possible?
Man, from my experience, I'll be honest with you, bro. They'll be like, hey, send me an email. Can you send me an email how this is structured? I'm like, heck yes. Bro, I send them looms. I send them step by step by step. I love analytical personalities, bro, because honestly, I feel like they help me get better on explaining things at a very lower level where it's easy to understand for anyone. So they really do challenge you. They ask you really good questions. And then if you try to answer that with a lot of mechanics into it, it's going to take them a really long time to process all of that. So that's why you really want to simplify it so they can then understand step by step by step. And even after the email, they're still gonna have more questions. And I always respond with looms. I feel like a lot of sellers appreciate the looms I send them in emails because I can assure you from all the experience I've been, there's really small percentage of wholesale company that sends sellers emails. And people say email, no, this is not a deal, bro. I come from a background where it's like email, text messages, phone calls. Is however your person wants to be communicating with you is how you should close them. If they want you, if you have a seller that want to communicate through email, then good luck closing them on the phone. You're gonna have a harder time. Send that email, send those looms, dog. But yeah, that's how I can determine very early. Hey, can you send me an email? I just need to see this. I need to see all the structure and all this, and then right off the bat, another way is just like asking a whole bunch of questions, and that's where knowing your tools correctly, where that's where it comes in handy. Because if you don't have the right rebuttals, good luck. You got to earn the trust from an analytical person. You have to earn that trust.
Yeah, an analytical person, this is really important, guys. An analytical seller, especially if they've been dealing with a lot of phone calls, they've been dealing with a lot of telemarketers and wholesalers and investors and Open Door and all these people. Analytical sellers, a lot of times they'll throw that out, not just because they're an analytical type and they want to see it written out. They'll actually do it as a filtering mechanism. Because in their mind, a lot of the times, if you are a legitimate company doing legitimate business, sending out an email that has a proper signature at the bottom, that is formatted professionally, that is an instant filtering mechanism for whether or not this is a legitimate company that is doing legitimate high-level business. It is actually a credibility. It is congrats. It is actually your first credibility objection. And just by following through and having a company email, what does that mean, guys? Your email should not be samsing1234@gmail.com.
Oh my goodness.
Your ability to convey that you are an authority in this industry and you have the wherewithal, not just the ability, but the willingness to buy this person's property at, let's just say, $250,000 in cash in 30 days, and you don't even have a proper domain email, you're done. Congratulations. They will pick up on that. You are done. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but if you guys don't have a domain formatted email, go get one. Costs like $12 a year on Google. Go to Google Workspace, buy a domain, costs $12 a year. And that's how it will now not be samsing1234@gmail.com. It'll be sam or info@companyname.com. And that little bit right there, we're building credibility. These are little tiny bricks that we keep building. And analytical types, they'll keep throwing interesting little things at you. Each one of these things are little bits of ability for you to build your credibility. Here's another thing that I like to do, guys. And this is a little bit of a more of a sneaky way to see if you're dealing with this person. A lot of times these people are very question heavy. And what you can instantly do in your rapport building phase, getting to know someone, being personable, is ask what they do for a living. Did they go to school? What was their degree in? Guess what? There is not a single electrical engineer in the world who is not an analytical type. There is no mechanical, civil engineer who is not. There's a reason why in sales we call them engineer types. The sooner that you can see that is also, guess what? You ask a lot of questions. You're asking really good questions. You're super smart. You must be an engineer, huh? And if they are, great, congrats. You just landed some amazing rapport points. Or with that in sales, we call this a false assumption. You must be an engineer, huh? They'll actually correct you and say, no, I'm actually an accountant. I'm actually a lawyer. Guess what? Accountants and lawyers, typically, they're also pretty analytical too. Going to law school, going through the bar exam, going through the LSATs, that stuff is very analytically oriented. You have to be geared a certain way and wired a certain way in mass to accomplish those things. So as soon as you can label them, just know that you are going to be hit with questions. What Daryl said earlier was fantastic. You are going to forward pace by killing objections before they come. And one thing that I like to do when I'm dealing with analyticals is asking myself internally while I'm on the phone with them is, are they with me, or are they with me right here, or did I lose them back here? And you can, when you're on a phone call with someone, analytical types are really good about this. They're typically very good about like just some level of verbal communication, but like, yeah, If they're keeping up with that, if in the beginning of the conversation you're just talking and they're yeah, cool, they're giving you these little bits of affirmation, it means they're with you. If 2 minutes have gone by and you haven't heard that, and they did that in the beginning, Congrats, you lost them. Now you need to figure out, take a pause, take a step back, pause, figure out, are they stuck on something that we said earlier, right? With analyticals, I don't know about you guys, I love checking in with them incrementally throughout the call to make sure that, like, hey, you know, before because I know that my mind goes a million miles a minute, right? And I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. Like, you have any questions for me, any concerns, anything like that? I want to make sure I'm catering to what you need. Just make sure you do not lose them. Daryl, man, how do you last one, then move on to the next part. How do you label and how do you find out that you're dealing with analytical?
Yeah, no, I love that. Before I do that, I wanted to actually ask a question because we were talking about, emails, right? When a seller asks for email, when an analytical seller asks for an email. Now, how do you distinguish between somebody who, it is more for Alejandro, how do you distinguish between somebody who actually is analytical and wants an email or between somebody who is just kicking tires and just wants to get you off the phone?
Ah, man, that's a good question. Man, it's honestly based for me. It's a little different just because I've been in sales for so long. It's like I can tell by the way they respond, by their energy, like their tonality of things. Like, I speak to a lot of analytical people and they always have like very specific way of asking you questions. And that really helps me analyze whether they're really interested or not. But I mean, lately in this market, I mean, I've been talking to a lot of motivated sellers, bro. So it's like, yeah, we need to sell, but I don't understand this whole creative finance thing. So like, okay, no problem. What about it? Is it that you don't understand? Because what happens is sometimes whenever you're speaking to an analytical person and they ask you questions, you tend to become an AK-47 right there. You start to shoot a lot of unnecessary things. In fact, if you speak more than what you're supposed to, you can actually lose that seller because you may say something that you weren't supposed to say. Like, they don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
So that's why I always ask, what about this that you don't understand? And then once they tell me what that is, then I can attack that. Because if it's hey, I just don't know, like how this work. I don't know if it's legal. Okay, what about this makes you feel like it's not legal? Well, I just never heard of it. I understand. So let's talk about that. Let's not talk about, the whole mechanics of this is what a subject to is. Well, we've done this for years. We've done this, but no, just attack the exact specific thing that they're concerned about. So that's kind of what helped. I don't know if that answered your question, Daryl, but yeah.
No, yeah, it does. And we pretty much do the same thing. I teach my team the same thing, right? Because sometimes you do get, those people who are asking for emails who aren't really serious at all. And there's some people who that's how they communicate. They need to look at an email and they need to be able to read every single detail of how this deal is going to go on. So what we do is we just call it out, right? I'll just act really confused and I'll tell a third party story. I'll say, Alejandro, I actually just got off the phone with a seller and, they were asking me for, usually, this is what I say. I say, usually when I get somebody who asks me for an email, it's typically them, letting me down nicely, telling me, no, they don't want to work with me in a nice way. Is that the case here? And
no, for me, like, I let my team know, like, we're not sending an email until that's the only thing stopping them from moving forward. Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Like when my lead managers used to get on the phone and like, hey, the seller wants an email on how this thing is structured. Are they interested? No, I mean, they didn't tell me that they're ready to move, but they want an email. No, we're not sending an email. I get on the phone. Perfect. Like, hey, Mr. Seller, it seems like you wanted an email. What exactly do you want in that email? Because I mean, there's multiple ways I can send you an email, but I want to make sure that I answer all the questions you have. Help me understand that properly. And that's kind of the route I go. And once they understand and I slowly make them understand, then they start like, oh, okay. And then I ask him like, hey, what about this benefits you? What made you do terms instead of cash now? And then I always want to make them sell themselves on the idea and the solution that I provided them. And once that's done, then I send them an email of the numbers and they're like, hey, I just don't know who you are. Excellent. Let me send you details about who I am and my partners and all that. Here's a Loom video. And I make it personal. Don't be lazy and do a loom that you've had for multiple sellers, I always put their name. And I get that idea from my background at the dealership. There's because I used to work in the BDC department, which stands for the Business Development Center. This is where you receive leads. They obviously put, the top closers in that department to close leads because they trust them. They pay for these leads, the Glengarry leads. So anytime I was back there, there's a lot of leads that only have emails. Those are the analytical people. And people used to be like, no, I don't want emails. I don't want those emails. Don't send me those, please. They're not going to answer the phone. They never respond to your email. But guess what, guys? I used to be that guy that recorded a video of the car with their personal name. Hey, Mrs. Johnson, here's the car you inquired about. I'm opening all the doors for you. I'm showing you all the features. Bro, I can assure you, like, majority of the time, those sellers come in the store and they're already ready to buy the car. Where's the guy that sent me the video? You need to promote this guy.
That handsome
I've
guy with the
never
curls.
ever seen a video of a car. No one has ever done that. So when you do that with email and in real estate, people feel like it's more personal. It's more personal. The more personal you make it, the more likely they are to work with you, right? I've had deals where people take less money than someone else just because they trust me. You have to build that trust. But if you're going to send an email, here's how these numbers work, blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you're interested. No, man, make it personal. Make it personal. So this is why I like to get on the phone and understand exactly what the concerns are so I can speak on those concerns. Don't just randomly send emails. Like, I hate when people send me like this, hey, I got a seller. She wants an email. I'm not sending that email. I'm not sending an email. On the phone.
That's what I wanted to hit at, bro. Because I just wanted to make sure that people weren't just because you're gonna get that seller, right? Like, a seller is gonna ask you, hey, send me an email. And I just didn't want people to just say, okay, here, what's your email? And just send an email just spilling all the beans, right? So
I actually, I'm sorry to cut you off, Daryl. No, because we're doing a lot of realtor outreach nowadays. And I have people sending me like realtor outreach leads. They're like, hey, they want you to send them an offer. I'm like, that's not how it works. I'm not going to send you an offer. It's not a one shoe fits all. Like, I'm not going to do that. Give me the realtor number. And then when I asked the realtor, hey, do you know exactly what kind of email we're sending you? Well, she said something about creative. Do you understand what that is? No. Do you think that realtor is going to show something to the seller that they don't understand?
Nope.
Come on, dog. Like, let's figure that out on the phone first. And once the email is the only thing that's stopping them from moving forward on that deal, that's when you send that email. But sometimes, like real talk, like sometimes if people tell me, hey, send me an email, and I feel like they're trying to get me off the phone, I legit ask them like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time, and usually when people tell me send them an email without any information, that's pretty much telling me like you don't want to do business with me. And if that's the case, that's fine. I just don't want to waste your time. And that calls them out. And they're like, oh damn, shit, I got caught red-handed. Well, it's just maybe I'm just not ready right now. Thank you for letting me know. I'll follow up with you in a couple of months.
Right. So here's a really important thing, and I think this is all. I think we're going to eventually have to do a day where we just talk about objections and how to overcome objections. One thing that's really important about when people do the email thing, or basically send me some form of correspondence right off the bat, right? That's what they're asking for. Some level of documentation on paper, even if it's digital, about who you are, what the heck you want, right? Here's where we unfortunately have to be truthful about and honest and upfront with you guys. There's a reason you need to go through that call and vet these people further. This is eventually going to happen at some time or another. There are people who are known as professional litigators, and when they get a sales call on the phone, they will initially ask for, what is your website? Give me an email. What are they looking for? They're looking for some official digital communication, which is actually... Yeah, I know. Dude, I remember that reel that you posted with what was going on with you. So it is actually very true. A lot of the times these people are looking for some formal form of communication that has your company name on it, and they can argue that that is a solicitation, so then they can sue you. These people, unfortunately, are known as professional litigators. They just sit at home, and this is what they do for money. They just sit there to file lawsuits all day. So this is actually really critically important that when someone says that, great, you know what? I want to make sure I'm sending you an email that's completely applicable, answers all your questions. So I'll send you an entire recap of this phone call once we're done here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next portion, right? And then you go through your regular qualifying questions about whether or not this lead is even worth you being on the phone with. Throughout the rest of that question, you'll be able to determine and get a better feel of whether or not this person's a professional litigator, or they're just not interested and disqualify them and just put them into a follow-up sequence or DNC them, or they're legitimately a lead and do deserve an email correspondence to be sent that has your company name on it, right? These are all very, very important things. Guys, I don't want to tangent too much, but it is very, very simple and easy to find out if someone is a professional litigator, because guess what? Lawsuits are public record. So all you have to do is know what their full name is. Ask them, yeah, what's your first name, your full first name, and your full last name? Okay, what email am I sending this to you? Okay, cool. And then the properties on this, all you do is, if you've got Batch Leads or PropStream or Privy or whatever, you can, with that address, right, look up the owner information. The owner information on public record is usually going to be their legal name. Google that legal name. Maybe the legal name is Marlon Johnson. I know that Marlon lives in like the Phoenix area. So I would just type in Marlon Johnson in Google versus VS and then type in Phoenix or Arizona. Guess what's going to come up? Google results, if he's a professional litigator, Marlon Johnson versus, Daryl Ellison LLC versus Sam Singh LLC versus Alejandro LLC. This shows me that this person has a history of filing lawsuits. And at that point, am I going to send that email? Heck no. You DNC that person. You mark that person do not contact or do not call in your CRM, in your database, and then you just move on. That is a very important filtering mechanism, and I'm glad that we talked about that. It's a really important one. And guys, make no bones about it. You will run into them. You will absolutely run into them. They're out there, and just be good on spotting them from afar. So let's do this, guys. Let's move on a little bit. So, right, Daryl, we've got, they give us the email thing. They're actually just an analytical type. They want to see things on paper. Cool. What are some of when you're dealing with this person, right? How do you go about making sure this person is with you throughout the call, that you're not losing them?
That's a great question, bro. Like I said, I make sure I take my time and I explain every single detail, right? Like if we talk about and not really explain every detail, make it confusing for them. I explain every detail and make it extremely simple for them to understand. So they're just like, oh, okay, right? Like I tell third-party stories. I use actual numbers, right? Like so if I'm one thing I like to do with analytical sellers, if we're negotiating, like say a creative deal, I will actually get on Bankrate and pull up a mortgage calculator and tell them, if we're talking about a balloon, I'll tell them how much money they're going to make in interest over X amount of years, right? Like we're going to talk all about numbers. We might even pull up a spreadsheet. We might even get on Zoom and look at things together. We're going to go the extra mile, like everybody else was talking about, to make sure that they understand every single part and piece of this deal that's going to be a potential roadblock for us. Yeah. What about you, Marlon? These are your favorite people to talk to.
Yeah, man. So basically, I agree with everything you guys have been saying. And one of the biggest things, and seriously, like, excuse the noise in the background. Hopefully you guys can still hear me clearly. If you can't, just let me know. Give me like a thumbs up or something if you can't hear me as I'm talking. You can't hear me?
We can't hear you.
Oh, no, you can. All right, perfect. Mm-hmm. All right, so basically with these sort of people, one of the most important things is not making the assumption. This is where I see a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot. They start answering questions that have not been asked, and they start assuming. You cannot make assumptions here. This is the time to ask them questions, because analyticals will ask you questions, but just like Sam, how he likes to confirm that they're still actually following. When I'm talking with an analytical seller, I like to have a back and forth conversation. It's the reason I like them so much is because it's the teacher in me, it's the coach in me. I like coaching and teaching people. So when I'm talking to them, the same way I coach any client, same way I coach any student, is I ask them questions to verify. As I'm explaining, with the subject, we would be taking over the existing mortgage, and then your equity portion, we would actually pay you a portion of that equity every single month. Does that make sense to you? Like, did you catch that? Do you have any questions about that, by the way? And they start to come back to me, well, what do you mean? Or, no, I think I understand. Okay, well, can you explain to me what you understood? I love asking them that question. Can you explain to me what you understood, what you heard? The words I use are, can you tell me what you heard? And oftentimes you're going to find that they come back and they explain certain things to you the way they understood it. From there, you're now making sure you're on the same page. Also, when they ask those questions, again, don't be worried. Like, if, like, man, this guy's battering you with a ton of questions. That's how they show interest. The more questions they ask, that's actually their way of showing that, hey, I'm actually very, very interested in this. So take that as a good sign when they keep asking you more and more questions and they start peppering you with questions. So
I love that.
this is essentially why they're my favorite people, because it's just, to me, it's coaching.
It's,
You know,
it's almost
I
like
wanna-
it's no, I was gonna say one thing I noticed too when I work with analyticals, it's almost like it's a team effort, right? It's a collaborative effort. It's almost a true win-win, right? Because a lot of times, if you explain it the right way, they understand enough to want they know that they can't have everything, right? They know there's certain things that they want in this deal, that they want to see in this deal, that makes them happy, and then everything else is fine, right? Like, it's a true. You have to really ask, like Marlon was saying, figure out what they want, so you guys can come up with a true win-win.
Yo, let's talk about that for a second, because I want to make sure everyone's clear too. When you said win-win, this is such an important concept to understand, that when we look at win-win situations, a lot of times people mistake what a win-win looks like, and it's because they're missing a critical component. And this is what Alejandro actually spoke about a little earlier. There's a win-win, and in combination with it, there's a win-win or no deal. And you have to be the person that's willing to say no deal. Right.
Yep.
Essentially, we're going to come to an agreement on something that's going to work out for you and something that's going to work out for me. And if we cannot come to an agreement on what that looks like when both of us are happy, then ultimately we just don't do a deal together. And we establish that from the very beginning of the conversation. These personality types absolutely understand that philosophy. They absolutely understand that concept. In fact, these are the people that tend to be the most fair. In fact, when you want to confirm something too, the best way to really lock something with these people is after you come up with your terms or your offer, or you guys come up with it together. The best question you can ask to nail the last nail in the coffin is to ask, does that sound fair? Because these people love fairness. These personality types love that fairness. They love that equality. They love that sense of justice. So if you can tie that into your communication with them, beautiful. It's absolutely critical.
So I would say this, and it's a lot of times I don't even know that it's I love the question fair, because the word fair also makes people feel like they're being emotionally justified, right? Emotionally fulfilled. There's an element of like, I'm being treated properly. And a lot of times with analyticals, it's not even like there's not an emotional play into it. It's, does this make rational sense? Does this actually, based on all the data points, make legitimate rational sense, right? Does 2 + 2 = 4, right? And if you do the stuff with them, they win, you win. 2 + 2 = 4. They can't argue with that, right? It's hard for them to go against that. One thing that I do want to say, it's really a fun thing to do, and this is it's such a critical way to build rapport with these people, is with like in fun, in brevity, in being very light with your tone and your pacing and how you're presenting this, right? Have a good time going back and forth with them, right? Analyticals, when they are asking these, when they're asking all these questions, what ends up happening is they're trying to subconsciously poke holes in things, and they want to feel like the gratification of knowing that they win. They like poking holes in things. It's just the way they work, right? They do this around with everything around them, right? And you're cold calling them. You're basically soliciting them to sell their home to you. They've never talked to you before, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to ask every freaking question to poke as many holes as possible. And it is your job to overcome them, get in front of them, solve them. But if you do it with them, and if you have some fun and kind of like compete back and forth, with my analyticals, what we like to do is we like to overcome 1, 2, or 3 of these objections. And then what we do is we actually invite them to come up with more, and we make a game out of it. It's fun. It's like, wow, have I been answering all your questions pretty well? Yeah? Dude, amazing. I freaking love doing that. You know what? Here's the thing. Your questions aren't hard enough yet. Can you come up with some better ones? Like, I really want to feel like I'm winning here. Have some fun with it. And I promise you, you will build amazing rapport with these folks because they actually enjoy the back and forth. They're going to quick fire a question, you quick fire an answer back, and you just have a little bit of back and forth and fun with it. It's like team practice. So it's a really fun thing to do. Instant rapport, because with these people, analytical types are usually pretty witty. They usually have higher IQ. And what people who are witty and who have high IQ, they like going back and forth with other people that are on the same wavelength. We all love that. Red types like dealing with other authority, high drive people. Analyticals like being able to quick fire questions, and then they can. It's like, you know, that old saying of like real respects real. It's like they throw you a high level question, you answer really high level right back at them, and then you just go back and forth. To them, they're dealing with someone on the same wavelength. This is also another element or another facet of the sales technique we call mirroring, right? Mirroring is not just pace and tonality and speech patterns. No, it's how quickly are you responding back to their questions. They're giving you a high level question. Can you fire back a high level answer right back at them, and then invite the next one and invite the next one? If you do that, guys, it's just like playing chess back and forth. It's like a fun game of chess. And what we end up doing with this is once we get to like maybe a closing call, we're no longer in a lead management call. We know this is a call where we have all the information we need, where we should be able to get a signed contract at the end of this. What we like to do is set somewhat of an upfront expectation with them. Is we're having a little bit of fun with this. We'll say, hey, you know what? I want you to come up. I feel like I've answered a lot of your questions. I want you to come up with harder ones. Okay. Problems that would end this transaction, that would end this deal, that would eliminate this completely. I want you to come up with the hardest ones that you can. And if I can overcome them and they make perfect sense, are we good to go? And these rational types, if you make it make sense to them like that, you're basically locking them in. And if they give you that go ahead and you crush those next objections, congratulations. They will freaking DocuSign.
I feel like I had one of those. Actually, I had those a few times last year. It's funny I can say last year. It was just a couple of weeks ago. I feel like I had those last year. I've had a lot of three-way calls over the past few months because there's realtor involved, there's the tooth fairy, the parents, the mom, like everyone's involved. And I feel like I've had a situation where it's like 3 analytical personalities. Man, I got this like dopamine, like, holy crap, I'm shutting these people down. This is freaking awesome. Like they were asking me so many questions, and the way like how instantly I had a rebuttal, like they all stood quiet for like a few seconds. And I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't move forward with this. Oh, really? It's so funny, bro, when you have those analytical people, man. I think the direct and analytical personality, those are the most fun. I feel like they're really fun because they really challenge you to have your rebuttals on standby all the time. And like you'll have those analytical. I've had like some of my lead managers, they're like, man, this guy is rude. He's like, he's not rude. He just feels like you're not talking on his level and he wants to talk to the decision maker. Like legit, he was like, hey, like, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere with you. Can you help me get on the phone with the decision maker? And like, and then the lead manager would come like, yeah, this guy's rude. I'm like, he's not rude. He's just being hard on you because he doesn't feel like you're talking to his level. And some people are like that, bro. Like they want to talk high level stuff. They don't want to talk like low level stuff. And that's where that like having your rebuttals on check, that's where it comes handy for you.
And that's really why it's important to understand different personality types in general. Exactly what you said, Alejandro. If you're not communicating with somebody in a way that they want to be communicated with, they will get pissed off and they will turn red really quick. Whatever color they are, they will turn red. So like one of the best ways to turn an analytical seller into a red seller is to come to that call not prepared. Right? Come to this call not prepared, especially if it's a closing call. You come to the closing call with no numbers, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? You're not responding with those questions like the guys have been talking about, that's a great way to break rapport with this person and lose a lead for sure.
You know, another way of putting that too, when you say like come to the call not prepared, is also recognizing that you need to know what you want out of the deal, right? And this helps immensely because when you're having a conversation with them, being able to have that sense of clarity of, look, I know that this is what the finish line looks like, and being able to define a very definitive finish line. That's what these people need. Other personality types are very much okay with the finish line being a little bit more ethereal. It doesn't need to be quite concrete. Yeah, we're going to work out a deal, whatever that means. These people need to know exactly what the deal is, which means you as a professional need to have that prepared. You need to identify what is the deal for you, what's the deal for your company, what's the deal for your business. So I want to make sure that's abundantly clear because the analytical personality types, once it makes sense, they're ready to move forward. Like Alejandro says, once it logically lines up, there's no more reason to really keep the conversation going. They're ready to move forward with the next step because there are no more logical objections.
Yep.
1000%, bro.
I feel like this. There's also other ways like you can handle the analytical personality. And you have to be prepared with your resources and tools, man. You have to be aligned with that. Because sometimes they're going to ask you the very difficult question. I find it easier for me to be upfront, kind of like the 8 Mile effect, where you kind of put all the negative things out there first, and then they have nothing to tell you. I always try to put myself in a position. I always tell this to my lead managers and my closers. Give them an offer so good that they feel stupid saying no. Right?
Yep.
You ask all the questions, you ask all their concerns, and like, hey, like for example, if I'm doing a subject to transaction, hey, the mortgage will stay under your name. We've done multiple transactions like this. It's illegal, indeed it is. And if you have any questions about that, feel free. You can talk to my attorney, blah blah blah. Because they will ask you those type of difficult questions, and once you make that clear, once for an analytical personality, if they feel like you're being super transparent, like it will be a lot easier to gain their trust. A lot easier because they're always looking for the shady part of the deal. Like, what about this is shady? I'm just looking for it. I'm looking for it. Send me an email. This doesn't sound right. No way. But when you be upfront and transparent, it's so much easier. Like it's like the smoothest deal I've ever done.
And you know what, to add to that, something I like to utilize when I'm talking with these sellers is I'd let them know, look, I am actually here to make a profit. You know, I take that elephant out of the room, right? We clear the elephant out of the room of, hey, look, you know, just so you know, as I'm running these numbers, I am looking to make a profit. You know, do you think it's fair that for the work I do and the risks that I take with buying the property, that I make a profit? They're like, yeah, well, of course. You have to. I love when they say, but of course, yeah, well, duh, like you have to eat. Like, I get it. You got to take care of your people. It's like, okay. And look, as I look to make a profit, I also want to make sure that this is something that works out for you. So do you think that we can come together on an agreement? I mean, like, just removing all the ammunition. I want people to, like, if you still feel sketchy about doing, like, wholesaling, if you feel like you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, if you feel like when you're talking to sellers that you have to deceive them, I can guarantee you're doing this business wrong. And you just don't respect people enough yet. If you're still doing that, if you're still playing the game in a very deceptive way, it means you don't quite respect them yet, and you're still afraid of being rejected. When you start to put yourself out there vulnerably, like when I tell a seller, like, look, I'm interested in making a profit, that's a vulnerable position because they might say, well, okay, I don't want you making money and I don't want to do this deal with you. I might lose a deal. Well, guess what? That's a deal I'm supposed to lose and I'm supposed to move on because that's not somebody I'm supposed to work with. So when you have that level of respect and integrity with them, it reciprocates. It comes back to you because you can never say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can never say the right thing to the wrong person.
Yep. I've actually done. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
No, you go for it first, man.
Okay, I said, but actually, I've had Zoom calls with these type of personalities, and I love that because it keeps me on my tippy toes. It keeps me staying professional and explaining things the right way. I pull my iPad out and I pull the whiteboard, and every single step I'm speaking to this person, they're following. You can tell they're following. They have their arm crossed, just like I'm looking for this thing that's going to be shady, something about this. And then once they start opening their arms and their hands, and it's all open, and they start asking you more questions. What would happen if this and this and that? And once you like, I go step by step. Hey, do you follow me so far? Let me know if I'm moving too fast, because I do this for a living, and I'm pretty sure you really want to understand this. Good to go? Okay. Step by step by step by step. And I have these Zoom calls. I do these Looms. I do these emails breakdown. And I can tell a lot of analytical personality. It does take a little bit longer for it to be a deal. But once they're ready to move forward, they're not changing their mind. They're ready to go. They're ready to move forward because they now have a complete understanding of what they're getting themselves into. And that's all they need to know for those type of personality. Go ahead, Marlon.
Plug me in, Coach. And I want to say this, right? Because this is something that you do so well, Alejandro. When we talk about scaling, right? Because Sam, Daryl, Alejandro, they scale their business, they scale this operation. There's certain aspects of this business that you can scale, and there are certain aspects of this business that you cannot scale. You can scale your systems, scale your processes, you can scale your teams. What you cannot scale is the communication. When it comes to having that one-on-one now communication with the prospect, when you're sitting in the presence of the prospect, because we're trying to make things more efficient and more effective. You don't make people more efficient, because making things more efficient is basically telling it to hurry up. Try this on for size. Try going home and talking to your girlfriend tonight, or talk to your wife and telling her to hurry up. Let me know how that one works out for you. Try talking to a seller and telling the seller to hurry up. Try talking to someone in a distress situation and telling them to hurry up. It doesn't work. So all the other hurrying up that you're doing to get to this point, to having this conversation, when you get to this conversation, pump the brakes. Slow it down. Slow it down. Drive slow,
Take it easy.
Take it easy. It's so critical that we worked so hard to get to this point, to have the opportunity to talk to these people, talk to these analyticals, talk to these red seller types, that we slow down the conversation when we get there and really make that conversation a one-on-one experience, to make the conversation an experience. This is how deals get done. This is how you start to make money in this business.
I love that. Yeah, I'm just curious. This is a question. My fault, son. This isn't as serious, but I'm just curious to Karen. Who's the eagle? Who's the owl? Who's the peacock? And who's the dove?
And should one of us be offended?
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really curious, Karen. Please let us know that. While you do that, because I'm very curious on that. I was actually going to ask that too. One thing that I want to go back and I realize is this: it's a really important thing. With certain seller types, it's more important than others. Analyticals, because they're basically looking for the flaw in the system. Okay, they're wanting to see how things map out. They're wanting to see how the puzzle pieces fit together. Here's the reality. They are constantly dissecting everything that you say, because they're trying to basically expose it, right? They're trying to turn your entire proposition into Swiss cheese. When they are doing that, if you don't do it right, guess what? They are combating you. They are literally going back and forth with you, and not in a good way. We talked about doing it in a fun, friendly way. We're still on the same team, but before you can get there, you need them to have what we call in sale. It's called buy-in. Your prospect needs to buy into everything that you're going to talk about, and do it in the beginning. And what ends up happening is this: because they care about credibility, they care about authority, they care about whether or not you are actually qualified to do the things that you say that you can. One thing that's really important for them is, right, things like credibility letters, credibility emails, websites, all this kind of good stuff. It is very important in the beginning for you to say, hey, 100%, I can absolutely overwhelm you with properties that we have, with our website, with this, that, and the other. I'm going to get you all that anyways. But let me ask you this. If I can get you all of that, can we just move on with this conversation and just assume that everything's in good faith? When you look into it, I actually want you to look into my website. I want you to look into these addresses I'm going to send you and see that I actually own them. I want you to look into my proof of funds and see how much money is in my bank account. I'm going to give it all to you. You will look into it. You will see that it's all there, right? But moving forward, can we just assume, can we just jump to that conclusion and just go forward? And then fair enough. Let's operate in good faith, and let's operate under the assumption that everything, that you are credible, that you aren't a scam artist. guess what? You will have a much more productive conversation by setting that upfront contract in the beginning. You will have what we call buy-in. They're actually with you from there on. It's a critical thing. Buy-in looks different with red sellers. It looks different with yellow sellers. With analyticals, get that buy-in early on. They will be with you. And what will happen is they're still going to analyze and dissect everything you do, but they won't be doing it potentially from a place of conflict or combating. They'll be doing it from a place of idle curiosity. And when you're doing that, it's much better.
Wait, so Sam, you're saying that when I pick up the phone and I randomly call these people totally out of the blue and they've never met me, they've never met my people, they've never met my employees, but I've got to build trust and rapport with them, and then I actually have to show that I'm legitimate and not just a scam artist from the middle of nowhere who's got a father who, I mean, my father is the Prince of Arabia, man, and he just needs you to swipe your credit card so that we'll fund all the money back. Like, people forget like how strange it is. Like, we're calling them out of nowhere. They're getting like, we're entering into their life. They've never met us in person. They've never seen us. And we're wanting to buy their largest asset. For most people, their largest asset from them.
We haven't even seen most times.
That we have to physically walk and look at. So when they're a little hesitant, your job is to remove friction, not to add it, to remove friction. Make this process as easy as possible. And that starts with you learning how to properly communicate to them the way they want to be communicated. So I'm hoping that this was helpful for people, because when I think for all of us, when we started understanding the different personality types, you start to realize like everybody is a subset of these 4 personality types. And people have the capability of moving and shifting into different boxes and just knowing which box they're in when they're talking with you. Because just like Daryl said, they might be able to switch if you anger them. That analytical type, don't get it twisted. They'll turn into a red seller real quick. They'll get a driver type personality, grow a backbone. They might not stay like that for an hour, but they will grow that backbone, call you, shout you out, get you off.
This is illegal.
And then boom, block you. Boom, right there. Just like that. So keep that in mind. So I think we pretty much like got that. Like, I think the analytical seller type has been spoken about now in depth. And I think Sam's right. We're probably going to have to do a day where we come in and maybe we put a vote out to the audience where we ask everyone to share what your biggest objection is. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna pass the mic over to Daryl for a second, because I'm gonna set something up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up something where I'm gonna ask everyone to join an email list, and I'm gonna shoot you guys over a survey that I want to have fill out that survey, and I want you to let us know what are their biggest objections. Like, give me the toughest things that you're like, yo, this person said this, this, and this, and I had no idea what to do, and we will overcome those objections for you on one of these episodes.
I like that. Make sure y'all definitely get that email list. And you know what's super important that I want to highlight before we get off of this? This doesn't just work with I'll take that. I'll be a dove.
I was hoping the second that she said it, I was like, I better be that eagle.
Marlon's a peacock. Oh man. But look, yo, I just wanna highlight, right? Understanding these personality types and
I'm a peacock.
What? Yeah, peacock, bro. Show your true colors, dog.
Yeah, I'll take it, yo. Peacock is one of the most beautiful, magnificent creatures out there. I'll take it.
Bro, I'll take that, bro. I'm an eagle, bro. Eagles are the kings of the sky. I'll take that any day of the week. But I mean, I gotta admit, I'm kind of jealous though. I'm like, peacocks they're pretty. They're pretty. But that's Marlon through and through.
Dang, yo, I'm the same, man. The doves are like, those are pure. Doves are pure, man. Like, everyone's got doves at their wedding. Yo, it makes sense that he's the dove because he's got the pearlies. He's got the pearly whites.
You feel me? It all makes sense. And
of course,
Alejandro is. That's what I'm saying. Like that. Yo, she's spot on. Karen's spot on with that.
I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna say I'm pretty sure she meant me when she said Al. I feel like I'm like that sometimes. I'm just checking out my surrounding, and by the time you like try to do some weird stuff around MySpace, I'm just gonna look at you crazy like, what are you doing? Get out of my space.
I love it. And you can like turn your head all the way around, right? You
Nah.
can see in the back of your head. Yo, but nah, I wanted to talk about though, because like this is super important when talking to sellers, but it's even more important in everyday conversation, right? Everybody has their own personality type. It's not just for sellers when you're talking on the phone. Use this when you're speaking to your friends, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your family. Use it when you're speaking to everybody, right? Understand who you're talking to and practice before you start to do this in like high stakes terms when actually money's on the line, right? Like call out somebody's personality type while you're talking to them, like one of your friends, you know. So start to call that out, start to notice that as you're not on the phones, because it's definitely relevant everywhere. Yeah, Marlon, do you have that email list? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so I mean, guys, I just dropped that right there in the chat. And listen, like again, this is just on the spot because I do want to know what those objections are. So you're gonna see I just gave you guys a landing page for the email list. This is not an email list that was made specifically for this. But I do want to be able to communicate back and forth with you guys. So go ahead and click that sign up for it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to send something out in probably the next like 24 hours here, where it will be a survey. I want to know what those objections are. Tell us those biggest objections. Tell us like, yo, this is the challenge I run into. I talk to red sellers. I talk to analytical types. I talk to people that are a little bit more on the steady side, or even those influential personality types. Like, has anyone ever been caught? And maybe this will be the next seller we talk about, that seller that will get you caught on the phone for 2, 3, 4 hours. Right, like, because that's my personality type. Like, that's gonna be like me one day when I'm an old man and people start calling me. It's like, you just fell into the trap, because we're gonna be here for a long time.
I've once seen Marlon stay on the phone with the seller for like 2 hours straight.
Bro,
no lie.
Bro. Yo, but I've gotten some deals out of those people. Like, some people you want to recognize. Like, some people, like, they literally do not care about the details. It's all about how you make them feel. It is all about how you make them feel.
For sure.
So it's important to recognize those individuals as well. So we'll talk about those people. So go ahead and click that link, fill it out. It's going to ask for your basic information, throw it in there, sign up for the email list. And then what I'll do is the people that sign up tonight, I'll see who signed up from tonight. I will send those people specifically a form. That way we can get your feedback on what your biggest objections are, and we can tackle that in another episode so we can help you grow in your business, overcome those objections. And guys, by the way, I'm going to be saying something I want to, it might just be me. You guys might not agree with this. I'm moving away from the term close. Right? I'm moving away from the term being a closer. I'm moving away from the term of closing people, because I've been thinking about it. I don't think anyone would ever want to hear that they were closed. Like, I don't think a seller would ever want to like see me come on YouTube and say like, yo, I just closed them. You'll just close that deal. Just close that seller. Right? However, we do get contracts and we do make deals happen. So instead of closing people, I truly believe we open them up to new opportunities. Like, so it's like, I just opened that deal. I just opened a new seller. I just opened a new client. Because after you work with me, I believe I'm opening you up to the next chapter of your life. I'm not closing you on anything. I'm opening you up to the next chapter. Real talk.
I like that. And
that's something that I would be proud to say to a seller. Like, after we get a deal done, it's like, yo, I'm glad we just opened that deal together. I'm glad it just closed you.
Just closed you, bro. Yo, Marlon, did that idea spark in your mind when I closed you last week to come run with us?
Bro, first off, dog, I opened you to that opportunity. Second off, who came in with the fastest time? I'm just saying. Who finished with the fastest time on a 15-mile run?
I love it. Nah, you did, bro. You did. You also weigh 50 pounds less than me. But look,
bro,
make sure you guys sign up for that email list. Marlon, and hit that questionnaire, right? Make sure you let us know what objections you guys are overcoming, what need help overcoming. Also, I'm going to drop this in the chat. I dropped it a little earlier. I just started a Discord channel, which what we're doing is that Discord is going to, when you go in there, you're going to be able to get, if you haven't gotten a deal yet, it's going to have everything you need to get your very first deal, right? We're also going to be doing things like call calibrations, role plays, Um, objection handling, right? I'm going to be doing live videos. Everything in there is going to be completely free. Make sure you guys join. We're building a community in there, and it's going to be super lit. My brothers on the screen are in there as well. So make sure y'all join the Discord and freaking turn up in there. Introduce yourselves. Let's do some deals together.
I have a real quick question. Can I do some like only for that community, privately for that community? Can I do like some really high level scale shit, like show people how to make like 6 figures per month?
I like that, bro. I like
Yeah.
that. We'll have to talk about that.
Shoot me a
We'll have to
text
talk
message.
about that. We're going to talk about that one, bro.
Okay.
For sure. For
But
sure.
only
The-
if you get to your 100 members.
That's what I was gonna say. I was thinking like we can't just do it to where we're at now. I think we need 200 for that, bro. Minimum 200 for that, because that's a lot of sauce right there.
Bro, that's value.
That's a lot of
That's
sauce.
crazy
So
value.
what we're actually doing right now, because I can track once you get in there and you sign up and sign in, you can create your own invite link, and we're tracking for the next week. The people who invite the most people that come in and join, they're gonna get a free one-on-one with me, where we put you in the hot seat. We talk about your business, where you're at, what I can help with, anything. You're mine for the next 30 minutes to an hour, right? We'll figure it out. So whoever invites the most people to the Discord, we get a free one-on-one with me. Yeah, it's gonna be freaking dope.
Yo, can you drop the Discord link again so people could?
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna drop it right here. You may have
Do me a
to,
favor, share it as all. Share it as all, because some people are on my channel. Cause I know there are people on my channel who can't see that.
Got it. Okay, there you go.
There it is. So y'all jump in that Discord. I'm in there. Alejandro's in there. Sam's in there. And I love what Sam said, that he would give away that much value, because that is something that people pay for. Like, in fact, Sam actually closed off his coaching for a while just because of how busy he is
Facts.
and what he's got going on with his business, like the behind the scenes stuff, which I guess I'm not allowed to share yet, but we'll share in the future. So just telling y'all, that is crazy, crazy value add.
I don't know. Sam may need to open me up to new ways of thinking, because that may need to be just for my students, bro. That may be the sauce for the paid students, bro. That's a lot right there. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, guys, that training will be literally what got me to several different 6-figure months. So whatever you need, man, whatever you need. But you know what? I'll tell you what, let's do this. Only for your students and up to you, but only for the people, since you're able to track it, only for the people who invite the most other people.
I like that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right, guys. Next week, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming, which is an episode of our new series, right?
Deal breaker.
Or no deal.
Wait. How you do that, bro? Yo, that's crazy. Yo, that's
All right,
gonna be a
guys.
fun time.
Yeah, next week's gonna be great. We're gonna go back to the second time we've ever done this new series, Deal or No Deal, where we're gonna take a live deal that we've either closed on or we are actually working on right here, right now in our businesses. We're gonna give you the real numbers, the real backstory, and we're gonna give you 4 different takes on why this deal works, why it doesn't, is there any salvaging it, right? Or hell, if it's a deal, should I just absolutely buy it from one of these guys?
Yep.
And if it's not, we'll show you exactly why it is. Because guess what? Real life case studies are some of the best things you can do to learn. So, guys, that's it for this week's Think Big podcast. We will see you next week.
Let's do it.